Andrea.
That was wonderful, Brother Nate. That was very, very much put together, and I appreciated it. I think you did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Reverend Andrea Lamour-Harrington, but let me start with this. I started out this journey as Michael Anthony Lopez, a little Mexican Black child from Chester, Pennsylvania. And on December 12th, 1988, a doctor walked into the cubicle and looked at me and said, "You've tested positive for HIV." And when he did that, a tear rolled down my face. And that was the beginning of judgment for me, because as the tear ran down my face, the doctor looked at me and said, "You should have thought about that before you had unprotected sex." And he walked out of the doctor's office and left me sitting there by myself. That was the beginning of why I said that my talk today is living well is the best revenge. That doctor looked at me and he judged me because I was a young gay Black boy, he thought, and I didn't deserve to be there. I wasn't worthy, so it didn't matter what he had to tell me. It didn't matter how he told me. It's just he had another Black boy to tell that they were positive with HIV. But here's the catch. He didn't know who he was dealing with. And at the time, I am adopted, but I learned who my blood family was at a very early age. They were very close to my adopted family. So once I started coming into who I was as a teenager, you could tell, you could look at me and tell I was different. I was not a little boy. It was something going on. And of course, being raised in a Christian home, I didn't know what drag was, tranny was. All I heard around me was faggot, bulldagger, all of the negative terms that come with the LGBTQ element of P umbrella. So the thing that I had to start doing at a very early age is realizing that I was basically on my own. I had to teach myself. I had to learn. But when that doctor told me that on December 12th, 1988, you have to remember, Rock Hudson dropped dead. Liberace dropped dead. So now I'm thinking I'm going to drop dead because all of the stigma, all of the things around me was telling me I wasn't worthy to live. All of the people that were in my family, both sides, the blood family, the adopted family, were telling me I wasn't worthy to live. If I didn't serve Jesus, if I didn't fall all out and denounce being homosexual, I was going straight to hell. Well, the last straw for me for blood family was when my boyfriend at the time cleaned up my grandmother's entire property, getting ready for a barbecue. And she let him do all of that work. He even went and made a beer run got cases of beer for her and everything, got everything ready for her barbecue. But then as we went home to get ready, she called me on the phone that he was paying the bill for, mind you, and told me that I could come to the family barbecue, but my boyfriend had to stay home. And I told her that wasn't fair because my boyfriend had cleaned her house. And she said, "Both of you are faggots and you're going to hell." And I said to her, and yes, it was disrespectful, but she needed to hear it. I said, "Well, since I'm going to hell, when I get there, make sure you have my glass of ice water waiting, okay? Because you're going to get there first, just for judging me." And again, the name of my talk today is Living Well is the Best Revenge. The very child that they told wasn't worthy, the very child they told me I was going to go to hell, here I sit as a field coordinator for the Philadelphia Health Department with no degree. Here I sit, blessed by the best and too blessed to be stressed by God as an anointed reverend who is an associate minister for Whosoever Community Church of Philadelphia and have been a minister now for 8 years. And also as an entertainer, the very person that they told was not worthy and should be dead. I have traveled the world as an entertainer, singing and putting smiles on everyone's face in the audience. I have performed in palaces as Andrea Lamour-Harrington, not as Michael Anthony Lopez, the child that they threw away, as Andrea Lamour-Harrington, the woman that I became because I was not going to allow the world to tell me who I was. I was not going to allow the world to tell me that I could not thrive. I was not going to allow anyone to judge for me what my life was going to be. That is exactly why I decided when I got to Philadelphia and I started hanging out. Mind you, I was out there doing some of everything, trying to survive. Why? Blood family won't give me a sandwich and I have no money. Adopted family won't give me a couch to sleep on. So I'm out in the streets. Why? Because they think I'm not worthy. Okay, so getting out of a cab, getting through with a date. And for anyone that doesn't know what a date is, I was prostituting. Let's go ahead and be real and transparent with it. And as I got out of that car with my little bit of cash stuffed in my breast, I looked up at a billboard that was right there at 13th and Locust Street. And I saw this good looking, bald headed brown man on that billboard. And his name was Hassan Gibbs, my blood cousin, another person in our family that the family said would not amount to anything. But my cousin is on a great big billboard talking about, yes, I'm HIV positive, but I take my medicine every day and I'm here to tell you the story. I said to my sister standing there that I wanted to be like him. I'm not going to allow HIV to take me out of here. How do I get to be up on that billboard? How do I get to learn about HIV? So that is exactly at the present time, he was working for Philadelphia Fight. And Philadelphia Fight has something called Project Teach Outside, Project Faithful Teach, all of these different denominations, so to speak, of the same class, but learning about HIV from different angles. You know, if you've just come out of prison, how to incorporate yourself back into the community if you're positive, and how to know to take care of yourself. And when I got in that class, and of course, my cousin Hassan was one of my teachers, I learned that if I took care of myself, I didn't have to be Liberace. I didn't have to be Rock Hudson. See, the world has a lot of things misconstrued, especially like, oh, well, they're rich. If they can't afford good medicine, then how am I going to survive? They have the same medicine that we have. You know, Magic Johnson is not magic, okay? That might be his name, but that does not mean he is magic because he's still living with HIV. No, he went and learned about HIV, and he learned to survive and to strive. And he did not allow the basketball people to tell him, you're done, you're finished, go in the corner, sit down. So if that was going to be the case, I learned and I studied, and I learned and I studied, and I ended up with a job at the Morris Home, working for Resources for Development. Also, I ended up at the Colors Organization working, and I had a determination in my mind, regardless of what the world told me, I was going to be not just existing, I was going to teach. And I decided that I wasn't going to teach in a classroom. I happened to be the mother of the House of Lamour. No, I'm not a house where we go and we get in the ballroom scene and we vogue every 5 minutes or we do contests. That's not the house that I'm talking about. My house is more of a home base. I have children that have gone on to graduate from law school. I have chosen children that have gone on to become doctors. I have chosen children. One of my children right now lives in Munich, Germany, and has a #1 song on the charts in Europe right now. His name is David Tobin. Look him up. That's my boy. That's my son that sat with his feet planted under my kitchen table and ate. And when I said I wanted to teach, I didn't mean teach elementary mathematics. I didn't mean teaching arithmetic or English. What I meant to teach was learn how to take care of yourself. Learn how to be kind to others. Learn how the world does not just revolve around you, but one or two things for sure. If you're in it, live your life and be the best person that you possibly can be. And that is exactly why I'm sitting here today. I'm sitting here not ashamed of who I am. I'm sitting here because when I did get into church and I finally got into the right church, Whosoever Metropolitan Community Church of Christ, that is the church that taught me John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son, so that whosoever believeth on him shall not perish. Whosoever is me, whosoever is David, whosoever is Nathan, whosoever is anyone that believes in God and believes in a higher power, that if they do what is necessary will happen for them. And I'm sitting here today. When I was young, I was carefree and frivolous, but I spent so much time from December 12th, 1988, thinking that I was going to die. I did not live. I didn't think that I would be here at 55 years old, being able to tell you or the world my story. But see, this is how God works. He didn't say he's going to move in your time. God's time is his own time, and his will is his will. And when he has a path created for you, that path, he's going to see to it that doors open. Because as soon as all of my blood family closed doors, he opened doors. And I guarantee you, some of the very family members that told me I wasn't worth crap are some of the very same people that have never left Chester, has never went outside the city limits of Chester, Pennsylvania. But my passport was so full, I had to go get another book. How about that? And I didn't pay for now trip that I went on. And yes, I said now. I'm from the country now. Sure did. But this is the one thing that I learned from one of my chosen aunts. She came up from Atlantic City. Her name was Aunt Rachel. And I had the pleasure of being in her presence only for 3 months. And she had passed on. But she said something to me that made such a big dent in my brain. She said, step into your greatness and make it taste like more. When she said that, it didn't make sense because, of course, it's not proper English. Of course, I was looking at it from trying to be so, educated and carrying on. She said, no, listen, baby, read between the lines. Life don't always give you the recipe. Step into your greatness and make it taste like more. That means if you know something, stand on it. If you feel something, stand on it. Do not kowtow to the world, because the world will always tell you you're not worthy, but you are a child of God. And when God puts you forth out of your mess, when God has you in the middle of a mess, it is doing nothing but shining you up and buffering you up so that when you step forth as pure gold. So today I stand here as Reverend Andrea Lamour-Harrington, a coordinator for the Philadelphia Health Department with no degree. And I make a lovely paycheck. And I'm thankful to God because I did not allow the world to tell me I was not worthy. And I did exactly what my auntie told me to do. I stepped into my greatness and I made it taste like more. And today, I thank you for listening to me, because I hope that what I have said encourages someone to know you are worthy.
Wow, that was like being in church, and it was awesome. It was amazing. It was simply, I know you from all the way back when. That was amazing. Mm-mm-mm.
Yes, thank you all three of you for sharing what your presentations today. And I think it goes to show, myself also being a person who was diagnosed in the mid 80s. We're not those people who are just surviving. We have taken it and said, no, HIV is a side note. It is part of us, but it is not us. We are more than HIV. And so, that's the key, one of the keys that we wanted to present today. Because and if anybody has wants to ask any questions, please do so in the chat. We'll be more than glad to answer any questions. I don't see anybody coming through on the chat. And make sure you reach out if you want to start a group of thrivers. Reach out to David Griffith. He'd be more than glad to assist on developing a program in your area. And the program that he talked about actually is a program with a positive tone. We don't look at things negatively. It's like, how are you positively living? And then us just openly discussing how we're positively living. And it really makes a difference in people's lives.
It really does. It unlearns so many of the narratives that we were taught, and those that we grew to accept as our truths. And so many of us, because we're aging, we come from that that era where you were condemned and damned, and you believed it, especially church hurt. Church hurt is very real. We were taught that we were worthless and we didn't matter, and so many times we believed that, and so we have to relearn, as David said, reimagine ourselves. Dacre Robinson is making a comment. How do you to others on how they can be as resilient as you are? For me, it's realizing what Andrea said, realizing that we were left here for a reason and for a purpose, and that we need to make the most of our lives and make our lives count, because we matter.
Well, for me, being able to tell someone that when God said whosoever, he didn't just mean the rich. He didn't just mean white. He didn't just mean black. He meant whoever puts their mind on him and believes they're worthy. As soon as you wake up in the morning and take a breath, that meant that God had something for you to do that day, and he gave you another chance to get it right. And if that is the case, don't waste it by worrying about what's not going to happen. What you do is just charge forward and be the greatest at whoever you are. Be the best at whatever you do, and the rest will fall in place.
And I think also one of the things is we show people resilience through as an example. We live our truth.
Right.
And we share our truth. And with that, that's how we teach other people to be resilient. They see how you do it. And then they have somebody to look at. Not look up to, but kind of respect and say, hey, they did it. Why can't I? So I think it's like we present an example to the community.
What is different for young people now from the experiences you had, and what is not changed? And what insights do you have for young people now in similar situations?
Oh, wait, please let me answer this.
Yes, please.
Listen, when on December 12th, 1988, when they told me I was positive, correct? There was no such thing as going to McDonald's and seeing a transgender woman working and handing you a burger. When December 12th, 1988, there was no such thing as a transgender woman being on television, doing nothing except for getting arrested. In 1988, there was nothing for a gay young man to be knocked upside the head just stepping out of his home. Today's time, we went through all of that, people throwing bottles at us, Stonewall, and all of these things we had to physically fight. Today, I see 8-year-old children walk around here with iPhones. I see 13-year-olds that have opportunities to go to college before they even get in high school, when back then it was just a dream for us. So a lot of that has changed for the children of today, and they don't appreciate the hard work that has gone before them. They don't understand that the elders literally had to walk through fire just so that now they can sit here and be cute with an iPhone in their hand. But this is what I want to tell the young folks of today. If you don't put $1 in your bank account, you can't do too much withdrawing. So if you want the rest of the world to be able to get ahead, if you want to get ahead, you're going to have to put some hard work into your future, because if you don't, you won't have a future.
I also want to add that just on HIV, there's a big difference. When the three of us were all diagnosed, we were given basically 2 years and told you're going to live only 2 years. Get your act together. That's not what you hear today. It's here. You can take, you can get on a regimen and you can live long, prosperous life. So that's kind of a different perspective. And the youth don't really appreciate all the work that we had to do to get services and to stand up for what we needed. They take for granted, and it's like something that my fear is, as we get older, in like another 20 years, 30 years, I'm going to give us a long time, and we die. They're not going to know what to do with programs, because they just accept it. They just assume it's going to always be what it is. And that's where we have to really be careful in our society, is not let the kids fall back and just assume that it's going to always last.
And I think there is a real need for more intergenerational dialogue. Andrea, you spoke about that with your house and your children, and how much that has, I imagine, benefited them as well as you. But yeah, I think that as Dave's saying also, that there are a lot of and I'm the millennial on the panel. There's a reason I work with older adults. I don't mess with the not as into what the young kids are doing. But no, I do think even folks in my generation, and definitely younger, don't have the same experience or that knowledge of the histories of their communities. And I think that's really important for people to grasp and to respect and to understand, because that's going to be, better for all sides.
Right.
And just something Andrea said too, about how her doctor said what he said. I had a doctor who just refused to provide service to me. I had to go somewhere. I had to go to somebody else. And that was kind of devastating at the moment. But then I found out, that was probably for the better, because at least I had somebody that wanted to take care of me. So, that's a positive. But that's something that most of the young kids will assume, that they can go to any doctor and they'll be accepted.
Yeah.
That's a good thing about how society's changed. We have more doctors who understand HIV and can accept people having HIV and know their risks and everything else.
So, David, we had another comment from Amy, and Amy's comment was, yes, the young people can learn something from the elders, but what can the elders learn from the young? And as David and Andrea said, I think that, we need to be intentional about collaborating both ways. It should be bi-directional.
Exactly.
One of the things that many elders don't know or can't grasp is technology, whereas 2-year-old kids are on iPads, and so for those things, those barriers that we have, that's something that we could rely on them for. Also, for me, like here, I don't just work with the elder population. I actually have a focus group of intergenerational individuals just for that purpose, so that we can help one another, because in the LGBTQ community, there is no continuity of culture. And that's something that we need to hold as sacred. For so long, it was taboo to be us. It was taboo to have our culture. So now, with all these pride events, we really need to maximize the meaning in the purpose of pride, and that should be pride in who we are, and that should be something that should be very intentional. And so I think that it has to be a mix of both.
I agree with you 100%.
One of the things that used to bother me as a child, coming from a Christian countrified home, everything was secret. Like,
Yeah.
all of the stuff that was going on in the home, you wasn't allowed to ask questions. Uncle Bob is going with Aunt Sue over here. He's got a girlfriend, but you're not supposed to talk about that. Or that one of your family members has cancer or something, but you can't come to mom and ask them about it. This is a different day and age. Technology is at your fingertips. You can learn about anything through Google or whatever. And on your phone, you don't have to be in front of a desktop. But this is the thing that is different about today's age. Our older people may be lacking in technology, but the young people, they don't want to necessarily be around grandma or Auntie Sue because she's too much of a bore. She's too slow. She's going to ask too many questions. But we need to be able to communicate with one another because they need to know about the past the same way that we need to know about what's going on right now and have a little help with it. So we need to do a little bit more, not throwing us together, but more functions that are compatible for the young and the older. If you go to a nightclub, it's either going to be old folks or young folks. It's not too many times you go and they're actually gathering together and communicating with one another. But maybe if we make more opportunity for that,
Right.
We'll have chance for growth and more chance for us to mingle together, learn from one another, and not be so biased against other people, because what you don't understand, you shun away from.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question on the chat. As follow-up, are you still encountering a lack of understanding / ignorance in the medical field at appointments?
I think it's gotten a lot better, but depending on the individual. I had a car accident before I left Philly, and it was a truck ran over my car. And this was actually in Philadelphia. Well, I won't say where their services was. And so I had to start seeking mental health counseling because I had PTSD. And so I had excellent providers until they gave me this one allegedly straight man as a psychologist. And he just was very, he didn't want to honor my perspective as a gay man dealing with what I was dealing with. And it was obvious to me. And so in situations like that, that's where, I realized that I have the ability to manage my health, and manage my health means my health and my providers. And so I got rid of them. I fired them because it was not suiting my purpose. And I think many of us don't realize that we are in charge and that we could take charge of our health and our health opportunities. And in saying that, that doesn't mean that we go in there cocky, that we go in there and just show our asses. What it means is that if it's not serving the purposes that we are there for, then we have the ability to change it.
Amen. Amen to that. I had a physician I had to fire as well, and it was an HIV provider. I got to realize that I was not really a patient. I was a billable dollar.
Okay. Wow.
And I had to, confront I changed physicians. And when they called and said, why? I said, I am not just a billable dollar. I am a patient.
Right.
And I need to be seen, and I need to be heard of my concerns. And it can't be, oh, you're just getting old. That was like the comment I'd always get. Well, yes, I'm getting older. But I also, have the virus. So, and you have to fire. If you're not happy, seek another physician. Mm-hmm. So I support you completely on that, Nathan. I see Andrea shaking her head too. I think she agrees.
Oh, yes, I do. Because, sometimes I think they forget. If it wasn't for us and our dollars, they would not be doctors with these fancy offices. I mean, and even if we're not paying it out of pocket, if it's our insurance paying for it, somebody's paying you to take care of me. And I'm not going to sit here and have you paid, and I'm sitting here lacking in information, lacking in treatment, lacking in medicine. I'm not going to do that, because as part of living in this world, I'd rather have a quality life than quantity. And you sitting here stouting at me, you got all these degrees. Well, if that's the case, get your bedside manner or else be fired.
Get a degree in that.
I think we're running about up to our time.
Yeah, we have 1 minute left.
So I thank everybody who participated, both on the panel and also as our audience, for attending this session. And I hope you all got something out of it.
I did. If nobody else did, I did.
I did. I learned all about Andrea. So it's like, it's nice to meet you.
It's a pleasure to see all of you. Wonderful.
This was wonderful. It really was.
And Andrea, you got a shout out in the chat also, the step into your greatness and let it taste like more. I wrote that down too as you said it. So I think we'll all at least have that as a takeaway.
And it tastes like more. Because you're worthy. We are.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
This has been amazing.
On behalf of the National CFAR CAB Coalition, I hope you found today's presentation insightful, informative, but also engaging. Earlier, I mentioned in my opening remarks how I value the lessons, the conversations, the sharing of best practices, and the value built upon the relationship of community and HIV research. The collective discussion of community engagement and patient-centered research shown today builds trust and are valuable resources for a successful opportunity to end this epidemic, hopefully by 2030. I hope you enjoyed your virtual visit to the city of brotherly love and sisterly affections. And I hope you feel as we do, by working together, we are building a better community. Now I want to end with some housekeeping. For tomorrow is the national or the N3C business meeting. All CFAR CAB delegates are required to attend. As always, we have a lot on the agenda, presentations and discussions on community mobilization and community experts, compensation, and much more. Also tomorrow is the CFAR administrators meeting. And on Thursday, everyone, we're hoping you will join us to participate in the annual CFAR Scientific Symposium. Please look forward to a survey where you get an opportunity to let us know what you think about today's event. With that said, I want to thank you for participating in today's symposium.